Hi, Julian. Welcome to Better with Age. How are you doing?
Busy. We just moved house on Monday, and I'm just putting my rowing machine back together again.
You're in Ballymena still, are you?
Yes, still in Ballymena. Just moved from one side of town to the other.
Okay. Well, I hope the rowing machine doesn't give you too many challenges to put together.
Well, it's in a shed at the bottom of the garden.
Oh, okay.
I've been relegated.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So let's start there. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your background in fitness.
Enjoyed PE and cross country and football at school. University, didn't do an awful lot. Cross country, throw the javelin. Reasonably fit till late 30s when I saw the masters and veterans athletic scene sort of beckoned, and I began to train for that. So in my 40s and 50s, I would have done quite a lot of road running and track and field, including the decathlon.
Okay.
And rowing, I only took up when I was in Bournemouth in the 90s. So I would have been about 50 odd then, but it was just because it was there in the gym. I didn't do any serious rowing or any distance in rowing until less than 10 years ago, until I couldn't run anymore when my osteoarthritis of the knee began to play up. Then I knew my running days were over. That wasn't that long ago. That was about 7 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously you've got into rowing now pretty seriously.
Yeah. I got myself a coach the end of last year. He took me through to the British Championships, which I'd been to before, but I always got a minor medal. But with his help and the fact that the guy who won it the year before didn't turn up, I got the gold this year. But he did help a lot. He's been structuring my training mainly for speed, but also general fitness and stretching and everything else.
Okay.
A Swedish guy called Ahmed Rapi, based in Jönköping in Sweden. Albanian by birth, but a national rower himself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we go on, I think it's also relevant to open with you also being a medical professional. Tell us a little bit about how you focused your medical career.
Well, I just made it through medical school. I almost gave up at second year, but I made it. And then did a series of jobs. In those days, you could basically do a 6-month job or a year's job as you found them. And, you were very free in that regard. And I did a whole lot of different things, from kids medicine to geriatrics to obstetrics and gynecology, all those kind of things. So orthopedics seemed to be the thing that suited me best. I liked the cut and thrust of operating and putting in new hips and knees and that kind of stuff. But I didn't make the grade. You have to pass really hard exams to become a surgeon. And so with my background of a little bit of everything, I turned to accident and emergency medicine.
Okay.
And that was what I worked at for most of my career.
Yeah. Okay.
Because A&E stands for anything and everything. And that's what comes through the door of an emergency department.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed my days as a staff grade, which is not a consultant post, but it's still a senior post.
Yeah.
In hospital. I was always in hospital, never in general practice.
Okay. And so you retired not that long ago, I think.
2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah.
So plenty of time now to really go for what you can on fitness and rowing. What is your fitness regime now?
Well, I would do something most days. Sundays a break day, a rest day. I just probably walk the dog that day. But Monday to Saturday, I play badminton 2 or 3 times just for fun with my wife and other friends. Plus a daily row of some kind,
Okay.
either high intensity, short distances, intervals, or a longer, easier one. But there's a workout of the day which Concept put out, and anyone can do all over the world. And if it takes my fancy, I will do it. The last one I did was 12 times a minute with a minute rest. But quite often they'll do a pyramid, which is 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then down again. So it's different every day, but along with the rowing of some description, there are all the stretching exercises and a bit of weight training added on.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. And have you got any either fitness or competition goals for this year?
Well, my coach has got about 5 different competitions spread through the year. The main ones would be the British in December, and then the world's next February, but he's got 1 or 2 other ones coming up. I don't remember the names of them. Some of them are sort of in-house among the different people he's coaching. But I think 1 or 2 of them might be virtual championships like the French championships or the Swedish or something like that. But I don't actually remember them because they're too far away. You know, they're sort of start in May. And, you know, to me, that's a long way away.
So he organises which ones you're going to go in for?
No, he leaves that up to us, but he's got, for his group of people he's coaching, he has put together this sort of series of events which they can take or leave as they so desire.
Okay.
I mean, I'll probably do most of them if I fancy them. And then, of course, there's different groups. There's a lightweights monthly ranking group that every month change the row. So January was 100 meters, February was 500 meters, March is 5,000 meters. So everyone that wants to take part does that sometime during the month, and then they compare results. These things are going on all the time as well. So there's plenty of things to be doing.
Yeah, and so a question therefore that springs to mind: is it still fun, or is it a discipline? I mean, they're not mutually exclusive, but I mean, are you having fun when you're doing it?
Yes, I am. Yes, I mean, I think people who've never pushed themselves have never really lived, you know, physically. Perhaps it's in some people's genes more than others, but we've been given an amazing human body. I don't know, is it 634 muscles, 214 bones? You know, exquisite engineering, and it's made for work. And, you know, I've always enjoyed working out or just working. I mean, I'm painting the shed at the moment and then digging the garden, and I have to keep busy, you know. So no, I still enjoy it, especially the short distances. I don't enjoy 5,000 meters. I have to say, I don't enjoy anything over probably 1,000 meters.
Okay. Okay.
And
and the coaching is online, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
He, as I say, I met him at the British Championships in Birmingham last year, and his brother and his sister and all the other competitors. He had about 20 people there, and between them they got maybe 12 medals, quite a few golds. But the rest of the time, yes, it's online.
Okay. And Julian, is there any advice that you would give to older athletes on the right routine of fitness? I mean, because everybody's different, and there's so many different things you can do. And I think probably fundamentally the most important thing is to be engaged in doing something.
To some extent, it depends on your makeup. It's the difference between a chicken and a wood pigeon. A chicken is white muscle, short acting, jumps up and down, can't fly. A wood pigeon can fly for miles and miles and miles and has red muscle, if you ever have eaten one. And some of us have more fast twitch than slow twitch. I'm more of a fast twitch man. Hence, I like the shorter distances. But there are guys who, as you probably know, do ultra distances. They do marathons. And I know a guy who's doing 15K a day. So to some extent, it depends on what you enjoy doing. You have to have an aerobic base. So you have to do something that gets you breathing hard, whether that's cycling or walking or rowing or swimming. I think everyone needs a bit of that just to be aerobically fit. And then on top of that, you must maintain your muscle. That is what you lose. You get what's called sarcopenia. You lose muscle as you get older unless you use it. Hence, my wife does a fair bit of weight training. I do not that much weight training. But the guy who always beats me is a Spanish fella. He does 100 kg deadlifts, one after the other. I don't know how many he can do, but he's very strong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I also, do a sport that you like badminton or squash or something a bit easier on you that is more fun.
Yeah. So you're talking about being out of breath and muscle above thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are, I think, about 7 aspects to fitness, but those are the 2 basic ones.
And so as a non-medical professional, I always wonder what it must be like for somebody who is an athlete and a medical professional to age. And so my question is aging what you expected it to be?
Yes. I mean, I'm beginning to feel now a lot more aches and pains than I used to. I've had a hip replacement that was 10 years ago. I've had an osteotomy of my knee to realign it to try and save the wear and tear. I feel very stiff most mornings. I always go in the hot tub or the steam room after exercising to try and keep supple. But no, I mean, putting my socks on gets harder and harder. Sometimes I lose my balance a little bit. So, yeah, I'm beginning to feel it now. It is what I expected, but as long as it stays fairly gradual, I'll be okay. But sometimes, like I said last time, I think there's a point where most athletes go over the hill. From the zenith, there's the denouement to the, and they're never quite the same again.
Yeah, I think rest and recovery is a challenge for every athlete, but particularly as you get older, it's you've got to keep adjusting the way that you do that.
Yes. I mean, I would be guilty probably of not resting enough. I think I mentioned Dwayne Chambers the last time, who's a very good sprinter, and he says he only does 2 hard sessions a week. So he says train less, race easy, or something like that.
So do you think if you trained a bit less, putting your socks on might be easier?
No, I think I think I'd probably be able to go harder on the days that I do it than I do now, because I mean, for example, I was helping the men do the removal of everything in the house, right? Boxes and boxes of boxes. That night I could hardly do a thing. I went to the gym and I was completely flat. I got on the rowing machine. I was going to try and do a WOD, workout of the day. And I think it was 2 minutes times 6. And I thought, I'd like to do this at a certain pace. And I couldn't even do one. So I just stopped.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's wise. I've read some of your writing, and you wrote something fairly recently about our body, and you referred to this earlier being a precious gift.
Mm-hmm.
So it prompted me to think whether you think that in general we cherish it enough or we bully it.
A lot of people do not cherish it. They overindulge it. And I think that's something it's worldwide now. The number of type 2 diabetics, obese people, and children is up and up and up through the roof, and it's costing the countries millions. So there's self-indulgence, which is abuse. To cherish it, well, obviously, most people get decent foods and they've got a plethora of choice, but they need to be sensible about what they eat. So that's one way of cherishing it. Not sweets all the time, and fizzy drinks. Plenty of good meat and vegetables and fruit. I mean, basic nutrition, and then exercise. Which is vital to keep the body fit. I mean, it's been shown that people who exercise on in life have much longer lifespans than people who don't generally.
And it's not just being physically healthy, it's also managing stress and some of the mental issues. And I mean, you strike me as being very relaxed, and most of the people that I meet in the course of doing this podcast are actually pretty relaxed, although they're disciplined and they're thinking about how to keep fit, but they are actually relatively stress-free.
Yes. Well, it's been proven that exercise is a great antidepressant.
Yeah.
And you know, people who don't exercise are much more likely to succumb to different mental problems. You know, getting out in the fresh air and doing something, or even just going to the gym. Endorphins, like you said.
Do you think we can read the dangers of over-exercise? I mean, are there warning signs? I don't sleep very well, so I'm not quite sure what that is. I wonder if it is overtraining.
It's hard to say. The only time I know I've been overtraining is when I've started to get fairly bad pains in my shoulders. And I don't think this is to do with exercise, but I was getting quite bad sciatica from nerve entrapment in my back. I think that is just age. But I think, you know, you're overtraining if you are stiff a lot.
Okay.
You know, and I think just you know, like I felt the other day, as I say, having helped the removal men, you know, I was completely knacked. I did not have any strength to do anything. And I think if you're training too hard day after day after day, you will your performance will plummet. You have to rest because, as you know, the time that your muscles adapt are in the recovery period
Yeah.
when you are resting. So you have to rest and get as much decent sleep as you can. Quite why you're an insomniac, I can't tell, but I told you last time I am a bit of one too, but that's due to bladder problems or drinking too much before I go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's no way around that, is there? I don't think you
No.
to live with it.
Yeah.
You mentioned interval training earlier. Personally, I found that to be very, very valuable.
Mm.
I don't know if it's psychological because you're just biting off a chunk rather than doing the whole thing in one go.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
I think so, because I mean, if you want to do a 2K race in, you know, say 7 minutes, you break that down, and that's 4 times what? 1 3/4 minutes for each 500. So you train and you do 4 at 1:45, 500s. And
Yeah.
your body knows what that pace is. And, you know, with a bit of providence, you can perhaps repeat it or go above that race pace in your 4 intervals. My 500 time is 1:36, so that would be 100%. So he's got me to do 105% on a shorter distance, like 250 or 100. So you train either at race pace or above race pace. I think it's all to do with pacing yourself, especially in a race, or, you know, I find that certainly if I set myself a target of say 150 per 500 and get into a rhythm, I can stick with it. You know, a lot of it's rhythm. One of the first things my coach did was to get me to do 1 minute, and then he analyzed my technique. And it's extraordinary the different right and wrong techniques that people have. He taught me how to shoot out your backsides. The first thing you do, you know, you push the seat back, and then you push your legs, or you push your legs and push the seat back, and then you use everything else. And that was something I'd never been told before. Yesterday, I have to say, when I did 12 times a minute, I could feel my technique was reasonably good and I could keep it going.
Wow. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. And one of the things that I found is that older athletes are become more competitive with themselves than they are with other people. So they're, you know, they're more relaxed about what other people are doing, but they're fiercely competitive with their previous performance. They want to keep improving, and really driving themselves towards it.
Yeah, if they can. But like I said last time, you have to be realistic. And I know that some of my PBs are getting more and more out of sight, as time goes on. I don't purport to beating them
Yeah.
unless I have a really good day. But I do get a kick out of beating the other guys. That's why I do the WOD, because I know there's guys all over the world that are doing this WOD.
Yeah.
Some are big and some are not so big. I try and beat the big ones, but quite often they beat me. The day I moved, I didn't do anything because I couldn't. And the WOD for that day was 12 times, was something like 10 or 12 times a minute with a minute's rest.
Yeah.
So I did that a day late. And then I emailed the guy who had the best score from Monday, and I said, "Look, this is what I did." And he very kindly answered me and said, "Well done,"
Yeah.
And he is 6'5" and 225 pounds.
Right. Right. Oh, it's a very nice community, and I think that age brings some perspective and humility, so that the community of sports people and rowers, certainly, just it's very nice to be there and
Yeah.
to have those kind of conversations.
Yes, they are very encouraging. People put up their pieces that they do each day, or their 5,000 time or the 2,000 time, and they always get a bit of encouragement from others. It's particularly nice to hear from your fellow competitors.
Yeah, and exercise seems to me more than the physical thing of just doing it. It also teaches you about yourself. So people are learning about themselves as they develop their exercise routines and their fitness.
Yes, they're learning their limitations. They're learning to be realistic. All I would say was make sure that you don't neglect your family or your kids. When I was a lot younger, I think I did far too much and neglected the family and neglected my children, which wasn't good. But that was many, many moons ago. Most people who are our age, of course, their kids have flown the nest anyway. It doesn't really apply. But there's always your wife, and with me, your church. So it mustn't take too much of a priority.
Yeah.
I think some people it does become an obsession, and that's not good.
Well, yes, I'm sure you're right, but our parents were unlikely to have any inclination towards fitness regimes. So we are therefore not learning from them how they managed their fitness in their 60s and 70s and beyond. So that it's new really for our generation of kind of how do we do this? So I just wonder, as both an athlete and a medical professional, is there any advice you'd give to people in their, say, 40s and 50s about maintaining fitness to be healthier older?
Well, I would say two things. One, find a sport you enjoy and do it regularly. One that gets you a bit out of breath and has got a social side to it. So tennis, badminton, even swimming, whatever you like. Some people, you see, just don't like going to the gym. But it's the basis really of all fitness is weight training, and having strength. Some people run. So pick a sport you enjoy, but also do a bit of reading about general fitness and how to reach it and maintain it. It doesn't have to be a lot. I heard a very good webinar from a Greek exercise physiologist who's in league with my coach about detraining and how quickly you lose it. And it's extraordinary that when you reach a certain level, it takes weeks for you actually to lose that. And if you just keep going maybe once a week or twice a week, you can maintain that fitness. You do not have to do, 3 or 4 sessions a week to keep fit. 20 minutes a day is good. It's not a lot. The folks in the 40s and 50s, find a sport you enjoy, get a gym or a leisure center membership and use it.
Yeah.
Don't go buying treadmills or bikes or rowing machines and then leave them to gather dust, as so many do. Waste the time, waste the space.
They do. Well, I hope they pay heed and commit. Julian, thank you very much for talking to me. Very, very interesting. And we'll talk again, I'm sure. Cheers.
Thanks, Stefan. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.